So my thoughts on the idea for the Pokemon Legends ZA starters. I did this sort of over months, kind of, when they were doing the Terra Raid events. And as the Terra Raid events were happening, I had like a list going to kind of see if could I figure out who's next? And I would just kind of mark one off as they went. And then it kind of got to thinking, what if the starters for Legends ZA end up being not the very last set of Terra Raids they do? That might actually be the Generation 9 starters. But what if the last set of starters, just before they possibly do the Legends, before they do the Generation 9 starters,
Who's that Pokemon?
Are the starters for Legends ZA. So I started looking at my list in that regards, and I narrowed it down to 3 whom I think have the possibility of being the starters. And they are Totodile. If you look up alligators in France, because I was like, are there even alligators in France? Because, like, doesn't seem like the kind of place to have alligators. Well, alligators are not native to France. However, they have a place called Alligator Bay, which is a place that you can go and see albino alligators and different species of alligators and possibly crocodili from around the world. And that location for Alligator Bay is roughly in the same location as Azure Bay in XY. I was like, okay, well, that kind of works. And of the grass starters and the fire starters that I have, I'm like, okay, what makes sense then for, there's a location that kind of matches for Totodile. Is there something similar for the others? And for Turtwig, I don't know how to say this. I am not French. I do not have a French accent by any means. But it is Ile Saint Marguerite. And they are somewhere in the Cannes of France, if I'm saying Cannes right, Cannes. They have a giant tortoise sanctuary. I'm like, well, okay, because Torterra is basically a tortoise. So I'm like, okay, that works. And then finally, Lytton, because there's a place, La ROMIEU, again, probably 100% saying this wrong, that is known for having a very large cat population. So my thinking is that the Legends ZA starters, if not the Kalos starters, then I think there is an argument then for Totodile, Turtwig, and Lytton to be the starters. I don't know what if they even do new typings for the final evolution as they did in Legends Arceus. I think, like I said, I think there's an argument for these 3. Now, if they don't do these, my best guess then is going to be the Kalos starters. And the reason for that is because originally Fennekin, Froakie, and Chespin did not receive a Mega Evolution, which is weird since they are the starters of that game, and so logic would dictate that they should have gotten a Mega Evolution, but they didn't. So my leaning is towards either the Kalos starters, because Mega Evolutions are returning, and what better way to give the Kalos starters their Mega Evolution than to let them be the starters and get it that way. And if not, and they are going to continue on doing what Legends Arceus had started and giving the starters a new third evolution with new typing, at least one of their typing, because they retain their grass, water, or fire, a secondary typing that is either new altogether, in the case of Totodile being pure water, or changing one of the types. So obviously Turtwig would remain grass, but instead of ground, it would get fill in the blank. Again, I don't know what I think those other types could be. I don't think they would reuse grass, fire, or water because those are the starter types to begin with. They obviously would not use the type that they already have because that makes no sense, at least in comparison to Legends Arceus. And I don't think they totally could, but I don't think they would reuse the types that they had already used in Legends Arceus, which was Fighting, Dark, and Ghost. So of the 18 types, you can kind of nix a handful of them, but it still leaves a lot of possibilities open. And I don't personally know enough about France or anything where I could make an educated guess of what that particular area of France could mean for its secondary typing or what the theme of France in general could be for their second typings. But that is my idea that I'm throwing out there. The possibilities of the Legends ZA starters being Totodile, Turtwig, and Litten, and that those three will get their Terra Raid events after they are announced as the starters, which hopefully will be in August, because for the past 3 years, we have received a Pokemon Presents sometime in August. Typically mid and earlier August as opposed to late August. So we'll see. We'll see. That is my idea being thrown out into the ether. And as the question of the day is, who do you think will be the Legends ZA starters and why?